Hi everybody, and welcome to a Belmont Stakes edition of Out of the Gate as Justify goes for the hallowed Triple Crown. Here's what's on tap in this week's edition. DRF handicappers Mike Beer, Matt Bernier, and I will take a look at the Belmont Stakes, the test of the champion. They're going 1.5 miles, one circuit around the Belmont main track. We'll also take a look at 3 other major Grade 1 stakes on the undercard. The Acorn Stakes for 3-year-old fillies featuring Monomoy Girl, the Grade 1 Metropolitan Handicap, and the Grade 1 Manhattan Stakes for turf routers. Nicole Russo is going to discuss pedigrees for the Belmont Stakes, so important in this 12-furlong test. David Aragona from Timeform US will highlight the Belmont Stakes using Timeform US past performances. We've got Jay Privman's post-position analysis, Mike Welsh's Clocker report, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Hot Topic segment. No hotter topic in the world of thoroughbred racing than Justify and Bob Baffert going for the Triple Crown in Saturday's Belmont Stakes. Let's throw up the field for the test of the champion. The 3-year-old's going 1.5 miles, $1.5 million is the purse for expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races this weekend. Head on over to video.drf.com. We cover Belmont Park extensively, every horse in every race. The story of this race, gentlemen, is of course Justify. But before we get to him, Matt, I think we should talk about the second choice on the morning line, and that's Bill Mott's Hofburg. Still eligible for a non-winners of 2 life, but a horse that had a lot of trouble in the Derby and ran well previously in his first start against winners in the Florida Derby.
I know a lot of people have pointed out that he's probably an underlay if he goes off at the price of 9-2, but I think in many aspects he's the most likely sort of alternative to Justify. We're going to look at that Florida Derby right now. And look, no disgrace losing to a horse like Audible. We know what Audible's capable of. He came back to run 3rd in the Kentucky Derby. But I like what Hofburg did here in Florida. Again, this was his first start against winners. And it's also worth noting he came back and he ran, all things considered, pretty well in the Kentucky Derby because he had a pretty nightmarish trip over that wet track. I think there's a lot of things going for this horse. It feels like the Belmont has been sort of the goal all along for Bill Mott. And again, the thing that I always go back to with him, Mott doesn't put horses in positions he doesn't think they belong in. Hofburg, he has been just very confident with from day one. I think in many ways he's the alternative, the second choice he deserves to be to Justify.
Skip the Preakness, fresh for the Belmont, has a beautiful Belmont pedigree and a great trainer. I could certainly see Hofburg, but Mike, you do think we'll see history at Belmont Park on Saturday?
Yeah, this is just one of those races. I just happen to believe that Justify is better than these horses. He has a lot of things going for him outside of that as well. I think he's got a great post on the inside, a field that didn't come up all that strong. There's not that much other speed in the race. I think he goes right to the front here. I think he's tough to run down. Let's look at the Preakness, though. This is his most recent start, the Preakness, and I think this is, he has better races than this that we could show you. I think this is the right replay to show, though, because this is the race he's coming into the Belmont off of, and this is the kind of race that makes you think he could be a little vulnerable here at a short price. This was not his best performance. He did what he had to do. He got through the second leg, but it was close. And so that's the kind of race that I think could make you think he's a little vulnerable on Saturday. I don't think that. I think he's better than these horses. I think he wins. But it makes that race right there makes it a little bit more interesting.
Matt, I think you think the Preakness performance does make him a bit vulnerable, especially as he stretches out to 1.5 miles off so many hard races in such a short amount of time. You'd like to take a shot against him at a big price.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily because of the Preakness, but it's what you alluded to. He's had so much racing in such a short amount of time. Now you got to go 1.5 miles. I think his uncoupled stablemate for Baffert is a little bit interesting in restoring hope. We're going to take a look at the Wood Memorial. This was his only try, really, against graded stakes company going 2 turns. He most recently ran the Pat Day Mile, draw a line through that. You see him, he's in those pink silks, and my big sort of complaint about this effort, he just got too far back. There was a runoff speed horse in there, and that's just not restoring hope. He's not going to be able to stay within shouting distance of a horse that has proper early speed. He is a grinder through and through. And we've seen many times a grinding running style is very suitable for a race at the Belmont Stakes at 12 furlongs. It's usually won, or at least horses run well, very rarely with brilliant performances. It's usually kind of the just grinding war of attrition. I think Restoring Hope fits the bill with the pedigree. He may not be better than Justify. Heck, he's probably not better than half the field. But I think his running style and his pedigree, I think he's got an interesting chance. I think he'll outrun his odds.
Two things happen if Restoring Hope wins the Belmont Stakes, Matt. One, you're cashing and you're a hero. Two, Elliot Walden of Windstar Farm is pile driving Bob Baffert in the winner's circle because he cost him the Triple Crown with Baffert's other horse, Justify. I'm going to go with Justify in here. The inside post concerning to some. This horse just has natural speed, and I think he's going to go to the front. Windstar has an interest in Noble Indy, one of the other speed horses. I don't think they're going to press Justify that much. I'm not sure if Bravazzo, a horse with speed, is going to go after him, and we'll see if he stays the mile and a half. That's really the question. But what he's done in such a short amount of time has been nothing short of remarkable. It's been a phenomenal job from Baffert, and as we saw in the Preakness, it wasn't his best race from a speed figure standpoint, but he did a lot of dirty work battling a good horse and good magic all the way around the racetrack. And as Mike Beer alluded to in our Belmont Stakes Race of the Day preview, where you can access free Formulator past performances on the Race of the Day event page, his two fastest races have come on fast ground, and that's what he's going to get, it appears, on Saturday. So I'll go with Justify, and I'm rooting for him as well. I'd love to see a Triple Crown for the sport. Nicole Russo's got the skinny on all of the pedigrees in the Belmont Stakes. Who is really best bred for the distance? David Aragon of Timeform US will use Timeform US to give his analysis of the Belmont Stakes. Let's go to those segments right now.
Hey guys, Nicole Russo coming to you for Out of the Gate from Belmont Park, where on Saturday, Justify will try to become the 13th Triple Crown winner in American racing. 9 challengers lined up to face the unbeaten colt. And I do want to talk a little bit about some of the other horses in the race, because I think there are some horses here who are really bred to handle this mile-and-a-half route of ground. And pedigree is one important piece of the puzzle when you're going this long. So few horses have the genuine desire, the inclination to do it. Let's start with a couple of horses that I put behind Justify in second and third in my picks for daily racing form: Blended Citizen and Vino Rosso. Blended Citizen I've been high on for quite a while. I thought that he genuinely would want to go a route of ground on dirt, as he showed in his victory in the Peter Pan, the local prep for the Belmont here. The colt is a son of Proud Citizen, who could certainly get you a route horse, sire of a pair of Kentucky Oaks winners, including champion Proud Spell, who wanted to add the Alabama at 1.25 miles. Blended Citizen, a half-brother to Lookin' at Lee, who was the runner-up in the Kentucky Derby last year. Long-winded colt. Wanted to run in the Kentucky Derby with him, but they didn't have the points to get in. That might have been a blessing in disguise. He's just blossomed physically. He's got big, long strides that get over this track so well. I think the track and the trip really suit him. I'm looking for him to run a great race at a price. Vino Rosso, of course, coming in fresh, 5 weeks off the Kentucky Derby. He was training phenomenally up to that race, and just for whatever reason did not fire. Perhaps one of those the sloppy track affected. His sire, Curlin, one of the most prominent classic sires going right now. Curlin, of course, a close second in his own trip in the Belmont Stakes to the Philly Regs to Riches, has sired a classic winner or classic placed runner from each of his crops to date. That includes a great record in the Belmont. Produced Palace Malice from his first crop, who won the 2013 Belmont, had Keen Ice finish third behind American Pharaoh, and had Irish War Cry a close runner-up last year. Of course, another stallion who's been so very dominant in the classics in the Belmont recently is Tappet, who has sired 3 of the last 4 winners of the Belmont. The only year he didn't win the race, his son Frosted, second to a little horse you may know, American Pharaoh. Tappet's representative in the Belmont this year is Hofburg, another exiting the Derby and heading straight to the Belmont. Hofburg actually one of the top choices on the morning line behind Justify, and Hofburg's broodmare sire, a Belmont winner himself in Touch Gold. The colt is a half-brother to Emollient, who is a multiple Grade 1 winner at 1.25 miles. Now we talk about Tappet, and he kind of has them surrounded in the Belmont this year. He's the broodmare sire of both Restoring Hope and Tenfold. Tenfold is also a son of Curlin, so that one who ran so well in the Preakness really bred for the distance on both sides. DRF TV has you covered with exclusive coverage of the Belmont Stakes all week. In addition to this episode of Out of the Gate, we also have in-depth video profile features on the Belmont contenders, race previews for all of the Grade 1 action on Saturday's blockbuster card, the DRF breeding report looking at some of the 2-year-old stakes, and more. We'll also be with you on race day to bring you the latest updates such as weather and track conditions, scratches and changes. We'll see you on DRF TV out here at Belmont or online.
Hi, this is David Aragona coming to you from the Belmont Park paddock for this week's Timeform US Spotlight. We're going to be taking a look at the big race this weekend. It's the Belmont Stakes, and right behind me, Justify will be going for the Triple Crown on Saturday afternoon as he circles the paddock before heading out to the track. Can he do it? Let's take a look at the field for the 150th Belmont Stakes. He's the 4-5 favorite on the morning line. Based on past Triple Crown attemptees, it seems like he's probably going to go off in that 3-5 to 4-5 range. It's a pretty short price for a 3-year-old who's trying a new distance for the first time. That's 1.5 miles. All of these 3-year-olds are trying that demanding distance for the first time in this Belmont Stakes. If you see, click on the Timeform US pace projector in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. You'll see that Justify is predicted to be on the early lead in this race, and drawing the rail post position really kind of forces Mike Smith's hand. He'll really have to send Justify out of the gate and brake cleanly, and we'll see if any other horses to his outside show speed. Obviously, Restoring Hope has some speed, and the horse that most people think will head out towards the front is Noble Indy, Justify's stablemate. They both share a common ownership. And whether Mike Smith is able to get Justify back a little bit and take him outside of Noble Indy, or whether he goes on with it and Noble Indy stalks outside, it remains to be seen. A lot of it will depend on the break and how the horses move heading into the first turn. We'll take a look at Justify's PPs. He is far and away the horse to beat in this race. If you look at the Timeform US speed figures that he has earned for his 5 career starts, 4 out of those 5 numbers are higher than the Timeform US speed figures, the personal best Timeform US speed figures that any other horse in this race has earned. So he has a huge figure edge over all of his rivals in this race. The real question is the schedule of 3 races in 5 weeks, 3 hard races in 5 weeks, is it going to take a toll on Justify? The fact that he's only has 5 career races, is it too much too soon? And will he take a step backwards at the distance? Because if Justify runs his race, he is going to win this Belmont Stakes. But how short of a price do you really want to take? I don't want to take 4-5 on any horse trying a new distance for the first time, especially going 1.5 miles in races where it's typically pretty wide open when these 3-year-olds need to prove their stamina. So let's take a look at a couple others. Hofburg is the horse that most people are going to be considering outside of Justify as the main challenger. Hofburg is the horse that had the toughest trip in the Kentucky Derby. I think everybody saw that. He got steadied a few times heading around the far turn, had to alter course, and once they got into the stretch, Hofburg finally got clear, and he was the one that was really running fastest of all through the final stages. He put in the fastest final 1/8 of a mile, and if he is able to take that next step forward, I think he's the biggest threat to Justify in the Belmont Stakes, but he's another horse that you have to really question. Is this too much too soon? Only 4 races so far, making just his 5th start in the Belmont. It's a lot to ask of a young horse, and I'm just not quite sure that I want to take Hofburg, who is probably going to be pretty short in this race because he is the consensus main challenger. Let's take a look at one other horse. That's Vino Rosso, the Wood Memorial winner. He was a horse that was never really suited to the Kentucky Derby. He's a kind of a lazier horse who doesn't really want to be that close to the pace, and he just ended up getting way too far back in the Kentucky Derby. He's not a deep closer, but he ended up in about 17th or 18th early, and that's just not where you want him to be because he doesn't have that explosive finish that some of the other closers have. He was also very wide in that race. He's a horse that kind of needs to be placed outside of horses, and in a huge field like the Kentucky Derby, he just lost way too much ground around both turns. Todd Pletcher gets these horses to rebound in the Belmont Stakes. Over the past 12 years, dating back to 2006, he has finished 1st or 2nd in the Belmont on 8 occasions. That's just a remarkable record, and Vino Rosso seems like the kind of horse that Pletcher will get to move forward in the Belmont Stakes. He's bred to get the distance. He's by Belmont runner-up Curlin. His dam is a half to Belmont runner-up Commissioner, so there's stamina on the top and bottom side. And I think Vino Rosso is the biggest threat to Justify outside of Hofburg, and he figures to offer better value than that rival. So I'm taking Vino Rosso, hoping to get in the 6 to 8 to 1 range in the Belmont Stakes, but it's going to take a big effort to beat Justify if he shows up. So that's the Belmont Stakes. Now let's send it back to Dan.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Time to look at the field for the Grade 1 Acorn Stakes at Belmont Park on Saturday. This for the 3-year-old fillies going a one-turn mile. $700,000 is the purse. Kentucky Oaks winner, number 3, Monomoy Girl, your heavy morning line favorite at 4-5. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races at Belmont on Friday and Saturday, please visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We cover every horse in every graded stakes race in great detail. Matt, you're going to try to go for a little bit of a price in this race, and that's the number 1, Moonshine Memories, who is so good as a 2-year-old filly, and this is her second start of the form cycle after a nice prep at Santa Anita.
Yeah, I feel like some people are kind of chilly on her based on those 2 most recent starts. One of them was the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, but she was down on the deepest part of the racetrack. I'm basically drawing a line through that. And then she came back in the Angels flight. We're going to take a look at that replay right now. This was back a few weeks ago out at Santa Anita. She's in those purple silks, and she's just going to get run over by Emboldened, a Baffert filly who I think is really good and really interesting going forward. But I thought this was a really positive first start off of such a long layoff, considering it was a day that it felt like closers did really well at Santa Anita. She was close to a pretty fast pace throughout. And I think she ran a winning race, with the exception of obviously the winner who won going away. I think this is a horse that, again, I think some people have gone sour on her, and I don't know that they really should, because those first 3 starts of her career, she really did nothing wrong.
Her trainer, Simon Callahan, is very, very shrewd, and I have a feeling that was just a prep to get to this race. Something tells me this race has been the key goal in the early portion of 2018 for the talented Moonshine Memories, who has beaten Mike in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies by Caledonia Road, another horse making her second start of the form cycle. The difference is that Caledonia Road won her comeback. Were you a little bit disappointed that the Fig came back light and that she was a little bit late with her lead changes?
Not really. I wasn't really turned off by any of that stuff. This is a filly who, I think it's worth pointing out, had some little issues prior to that race. It took her a while to get back to the race as Ralph Nix was dealing with some things with her. So I think it's pretty clear, or at least in my opinion anyway, her first start back wasn't anything close to her best race. It was just a race that she really needed. It was not a good field of horses. We can show the replay right now. She doesn't, bury this field, but she wins it pretty easily. I feel like this is the kind of race she really needed, though, to take the next step forward, and I'm hoping she takes the step forward on Saturday. She was a really good 2-year-old last year, and I know, Breeders' Cup Day, yes, Matt's horse, Moonshine Memories, was down on the rail. That wasn't the place to be. This horse was on the outside. That was the place to be, but to me, being four wide around the racetrack, in a 2-turn route race, is never that great of a trip. She handled it really well. I love the way she finished in the Breeders' Cup. I think this horse is good, and I'm just really hoping she's catching Monomoy Girl at the right time. Monomoy Girl is a really good horse, but she went all in to win the Kentucky Oaks last time.
She certainly did, and Caledonia Road also has the home court advantage over the 2 other big names in this race, in that she ran so well at Belmont as a 2-year-old and, of course, had that comeback win. As for Monomoy Girl, she is the queen of the division right now based on that win in the Kentucky Oaks. Let's go back to her prep for the Kentucky Oaks, the Grade 1 Ashland Stakes, where she was an odds-on favorite. She was supposed to win. She went to the front. She got a comfortable trip, and she makes this field pay. But what I like about Monomoy Girl is her versatility. She then returned in the Kentucky Oaks, was saddled with a very difficult outside post, was forced to rate from off the pace, and what I've noticed from Monomoy Girl in the races where she rates on the outside, she has this electric turn of foot on the turn. She took over the Kentucky Oaks with 3 furlongs to run with a big sweeping move, and then she did have to take on a very stiff challenge from Wonder Godot, a horse that is often a bridesmaid and never a bride. Monomoy Girl did assert her class in the final 16th of a mile with a little bumping there, and I think in this race there are a lot of options for Florent Giroux. I think she could easily go to the front. If someone else wants it, she can sit. She's way the horse to beat. There's not a lot of value. Maybe I would try to key her up in exotics with Talk Vuv to Me, a very lightly raced horse who gets a great great outside post position and could work out a stalking trip, a horse that could be a price. But it's Monomoy Girl for me in the Grade 1 Acorn. Mike Welsh has been on track at Belmont Park all week long, looking at the Belmont Stakes contenders from a morning workout standpoint. Jay Priven's going to be talking about post positions. Let's go to their expert analysis right now.
Hi, everybody. Jay Privman, the national correspondent with Daily Racing Form, here just after the draw at Citi Field for the Belmont Stakes on Saturday at Belmont Park. And it was a very interesting draw because Justify, who's going to be going for the Triple Crown on Saturday, drew the rail. And the reason I think that makes it an interesting draw is because all the potential speed that could press him early is going to be lined up outside of him. Now, Noble Indy, who's owned in part by Windstar Farm, as is Justify, is going to be starting from post number 9. And he's going to show some speed, but you wouldn't think he'd engage fully Justify early. To me, the wild card in the race is Bravazzo, who goes from post number 3. He's got enough early speed to put some pressure on Justify early. He's not as fast as Justify, but they're not going to be going as fast early. And to me, it's a matter of how fast are they going to go early on. Justify is the best horse in this field. He's the best horse that we've seen so far among this crop of 3-year-olds. He's unbeaten. He's won the Derby and the Preakness, but this is going to be his 6th race since making his debut on February 18, and the question's going to be, has all of that racing in such a short amount of time going to catch up with him when they reach the quarter pole at Belmont Park? If he can overcome all that, win his 6th straight race, and become a Triple Crown winner, he will certainly be a worthy one, having done all this in such a short amount of time and becoming the first horse to win the Triple Crown without racing as a 2-year-old. But they're going to make him earn it on Saturday. You're going to have horses like Vino Rosso and also Hofburg, who have skipped the Preakness, are going to be coming into this race fresh. And I thought Hofburg in particular drew quite well in post number 4. He should get a gorgeous trip there, sitting just off the pace. It sets up as a tremendous Belmont Stakes. I can't wait for it. Make sure you come back here to drf.com and check out all of our videos leading up to the Belmont Stakes on Saturday.
All 10 Belmont Stakes starters are finally on the grounds here in New York, but obviously there was only one horse everybody was waiting to see this morning come out to train, and that's Justify, who is just 48 hours away from his quest to complete the Triple Crown here Saturday in the Belmont Stakes. Justify came out to train shortly after the track reopened following the regular renovation break at 8:45 a.m., and he disappointed nobody except maybe those looking to side against him on Saturday, because he just had a perfect morning. He galloped 1.5 miles and did so just looking terrific. Went around there at a pretty good clip, actually picked up the pace coming down the stretch past the wire and going back to the spot he started at on the clubhouse turn before pulling up. He had his ears up, his ears pricked coming past the wire here. Really, you couldn't find any fault with him. His coat looked terrific. He looked like he'd been training at Big Sandy all his life, even though this was his first day here, the first time he's ever seen the Belmont Park racetrack. So all looks well for Justify. He'll have one more training session. Apparently it will go a little bit easier tomorrow than he did this morning, according to trainer Bob Baffett, and he appears to be going into the Belmont Stakes Saturday at just the peak of health, even though he's had a pretty grueling schedule since he first debuted and started this terrific run to a potential Triple Crown less than 4 months ago. The one horse I was eager to see this morning, aside from Justify, obviously, was Hofburg. He hadn't shown the same energy level here the first 2 days since shipping down from Saratoga as he had prior to the Kentucky Derby at Churchill Downs, where he was just tugging his rider around on a regular basis. And he did pick it up a little bit this morning, although still not quite the same as we'd seen in Louisville. Hofburg went at about a 15-second, 2-minute clip, that is, pace throughout his 1.5 mile gallop. He did shy away a little bit as he approached the wire. There's some signage, some I Love New York signage attached to the rail near the wire, and it looked like it caught his eye, and he ducked out a little bit briefly, but then corrected himself and continued on without any issue whatsoever. Tenfold made his first appearance on the main track since shipping in from Louisville earlier in the week. He trained over on the training track yesterday. He visited the starting gate and put in a pretty good-looking gallop. He was equipped in draw reins for the rider to be able to keep control. Obviously, not looking for him to do too much today. He, too, had a little issue with that signage coming to the wire, ducking out a little bit briefly. And, again, no issue thereafter, though, correcting himself and continuing on without any problem into the turn. He looks good coming off his big effort in the Preakness. I might mention Justify's stablemate, Restoring Hope, will also run on Saturday. Did a lot less than Justify this morning. Trainer Bob Baffert had him actually just jog about 5/8 of a mile the wrong way on the outside fence, reverse direction, and gallop a very easy 5 furlongs back to the gap where he came onto the track. And he was accompanied by his multiple Grade 1 winning stablemate, the great filly Abel Tasman. Noble Indian Vino Rosso for trainer Todd Pletcher. They came out in their Belmont Stakes saddle towels for the first time this morning, and then went through their regular regime where they back up to the top of the stretch, turn around and gallop about 1 mile and 5/8 at a pretty leisurely clip. Neither of them have been doing too much. They've been getting a lot of stamina, long stamina gallops in, but not at too fast a pace. The rider, Vino Rosso, actually had to work a little bit to get him to switch to his proper lead as they broke off coming by the wire the first time. I thought Bravazzo looked a little smoother galloping today than he had yesterday. He's not the smoothest galloper, if I recall, back at Churchill before the Derby. And again, since I've seen him here, not going to catch your eye really in the morning, but I thought he looked a little better today. Blended Citizen, again, you know, you watch him train, you would swear he was a grass horse more than a dirt horse. And also Gronkowski and Free Drop Billy came out on the track shortly behind Justify. Of course, most people's attention were focused elsewhere, but they went through routine gallops here today as well. So all 10 will be back tomorrow. One more day to train Friday, and then it's Belmont Stakes time Saturday as we see if Justify can complete his quest for the Triple Crown. And don't forget to continue right here, staying right here at DRF.com or checking in at DRF Live for the best coverage of the Belmont Stakes 2018.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Time to take a look at the field for the prestigious Grade 1 Metropolitan Handicap, the Met Mile. $1.2 million is the purse. It's a big, evenly matched field for expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races at Belmont on Friday and Saturday, including the Met Mile. Please visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We cover every horse in every graded stakes race in great detail. Mike, you have been chasing the number 11 Awesome Slew for a while now. Why is the Met Mile going to be different?
I don't know. I'm just hoping it's going to be different. I got to be honest with you. This is a really competitive field, I think. This is, to me, especially in this pick 4 at Belmont, this is the spread race for me. I want to use a lot of different horses in here, but certainly Awesome Slew has to have a chance in here. He needs a little bit of pace to close into. I think he's going to get it, and this is his game. The one-turn, 7-day furlong races. This is what he really wants to do. He shows up every time. We're going to go 2 races back to see a video of him. This is the Grade 1 Carter, 7 furlongs. I don't know. I thought he ran his race in here. I thought he ran really well. Here he comes on the outside. There's just no chance that he's going to catch Army Mule in here. 114 Beyer speed figure. Nothing he can do about it. Awesome Slew ran his race once again. I know that he's going to show up on Saturday. I know he's going to run a good race. Whether he gets there first or not, I don't know, but I think it'll be a fair price. I'm going to give him one more chance.
It's all about pace for Awesome Slew, a late-running sprinter, middle-distance type who really just shows up, as Mike says, every single time. Now, Matt's selection in this race is likely to provide the pace. How fast is the number 10B jersey going to go early?
Yeah, I think they're going to go real fast, but I just kind of feel like he might be the fastest of them all, and maybe he can clear off and just kind of run away from everyone. We're going to go back to his most recent win. This was in the Steve Sexton Mile down at Lone Star. I don't know, guys. I liked everything about this. I made him a horse watch for Out of the Gate, and he just does the same thing in each one of his starts here. Ever since Asmussen's gotten him good, he just goes out and bottoms out fields. I know the fractions don't look that fast in this race, but if you go to the Keeneland start 2 back, he got a half in 45 and 2 going 2 turns, and all he did was spread eagle that field and win by 7.5. I don't think he's going to win by 7.5 on Saturday, but I think there's a real chance that he just gets to the front and doesn't stop. Come and catch me if you can.
He beat 2 next out winners in that Steve Sexton Mile. Is lightly raced. He may still have a little bit of upside. Mind Your Biscuits has been the king of the Dubai Golden Shaheen for trainer Chad Summers. He's won at the last 2 races. And this year's Dubai Golden Shaheen was won in remarkable style. Let's go to that race right now. Yes, this race was a very fast pace up front, but it also was a very inside speed favoring track. And Mind Your Biscuits is not even in the picture with about a furlong to go. And these are some good horses on the lead. XY Jet and Roy H are two of America's best sprinters. And Mind Your Biscuits is just going to overwhelm them in the last 100 meters to get up in the shadow of the wire. And in handicapping the Met Mile, and maybe it's the wrong way to handicap the race, I looked at the field and said, I don't think any of the other horses in the Met Mile could have done what Mind Your Biscuits did that evening. Mind Your Biscuits now has to prove it at a mile. He has not won at a mile, but he did run very, very well when behind Sharpest Tekka in last year's Cigar Mile. I think a one-turn mile is within his scope. I think if he runs the Dubai Golden Shaheen or several of his other races, he is going to be charging hard in the stretch. I'm hoping Matt's synopsis of the pace, that the pace will be fast, works to Mind Your Biscuits' advantage. Like Awesome Slew, he's a horse we expect to be running hard in the lane, and we expect him to be running well. He always seems to show up. Peter Thomas Fornatel's got his Belmont Stakes predictions, and then we've got JK's play of the day. He always has some really nice wagering opportunities and wagering analyses for the Belmont card.
Peter Thomas Fornatel back with you on Out of the Gate, live here at Belmont Park. Super exciting weekend. The Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. 3 days of fun and excitement. None more exciting than Saturday. Going to be a fabulous card, and really looking forward to watching and betting as Justify makes his bid for the Triple Crown. But not going to talk about the Belmont here today. Plenty of that elsewhere on this show and also on the DRF Players podcast if we ever record our late week version. We're working on that still. Meanwhile, I just want to talk about a couple of horses, actually 4 horses specifically, who I think might offer value throughout this card. Just want to throw these ideas out there. Feel free to put them with your own, and hopefully we can come up with some successful stuff on this loaded Saturday card. Going to start off in race 2, the Easy Goer, with a horse I talked about on UK television a few months ago, number 6, Breaking the Rules. My co-guest was citing this amazing pedigree and saying that this Shug McGahee first-time starter had a great shot that day. I said, oh, well, you know, according to Formulator, McGahee doesn't do that well with these types. Of course, the horse runs off the screen, making me look pretty silly, which, you know, I'm accustomed to. Comes back, wins again, second out, and now makes the stakes debut. Going to be a lot of other horses taking action here. I think this Breaking the Rules is a progressive sort who could just keep getting better and should offer fair value in the Easy Goer. Want to move on to race 4, the Acorn, horse we've talked about a lot on the podcast. Talk Vuv to me, keeps getting better, made a bold run last time, and I think has a chance to outrun her odds in the Acorn. I'm sure JK will be doing something with her as well. In the Woody Stevens, I really like number 12, Strike Power, getting back to what I think he does best, which is going a sprint distance instead of trying to stretch out. Again, lots of different ways to go in here. I think Strike Power is going to offer some decent odds, probably something along the lines of 7-2, 4-1, maybe the 9-2 of the morning line. Lastly, one I want to throw in a race that looks pretty formful, the Manhattan, where Beach Patrol and Sadler's Joy look so good, but I want to make sure I have some channel maker to come with those two in the vertical exotics. Might throw in for a penny on top, but more for underneath. This is a horse who was against the bias last time and has a lot of attributes, almost kind of like a mini Sadler's Joy. Been a little bit luckless, forms a little better, I think, than it looks, and this horse should just be a massive price to hopefully run in underneath with those twos in your exacta, your trifecta, your superfecta. Anyway, a few thoughts for Belmont Day from me, Peter Thomas Fornatel. Stay tuned for more on Out of the Gate.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. Obviously I'm in New York City. I'm not in the play at Texas, as Pete Fornatel always likes to call it. We're going to look at a pick 3 on Belmont Day, starting in race 9, which is the Met Mile, one of my favorite races of the entire year. We're going to use 4 horses in here. We're going to use the 1, the 2, the 4, and the 11. The 1, Mind Your Biscuits, ran a huge race on in Dubai and on Dubai undercard. The inside was good that day. That horse is closing on the outside. I respect this horse. The only bad race on his resume is when you look back to the Forego. He wasn't training well leading into that. Supposedly training well now. I'm going to use Mind Your Biscuits. I'm also going to use Boldoro with the weight break as a 3-year-old. Supposedly training well as well. I think it's really interesting they show up in this spot. A little bit concerned about the fact that they were going to take a break, but now they show up here. I'm still going to use Bolt Doro in here in McCracken with a big cutback race. Leading up to the Kentucky Derby last year, we always thought maybe the distance was going to be a little bit too much for him. Cutting back now. Huge race on Derby Day with a nice figure. And then also Awesome Slew. You look down through Awesome Slew's record, you see some of the horses that have beat him. You can kind of forgive him a little bit for some of the times he's run second. I think he'll be tough in this spot. So I'm going to use those horses, the 1, 2, the 4, and the 11. Going on to the Woodford Reserve. This is a little bit of a trickier spot. I'm going to use 3 horses. The 8, Sadler's Joy, runs well at Belmont. Hopefully he'll be a little bit closer than normal in this spot. Sometimes he just gets himself a little bit too far out of it. The 9, Channel Maker, who ran well on the inside of the Churchill turf course that wasn't favoring the inside. He was on the outside. On the inside, and it wasn't favoring down inside. I think that horse will run well in this spot. And then Beach Patrol, the classiest of all of them, arguably was the best horse in the Breeders' Cup turf last year. I think he'll run big here. And then we're going to single the big horse and the Belmont Justify to see our next Triple Crown. And I think he's going to run big. I think that big horse, big loping stride, he's fast, he's tactical, he'll be forward. He's thriving from what Bob Baffert says and the way he looks in the mornings. I think he'll be extremely tough here. I think Hofberg's going to be extremely overbet. He's a horse that wants to come from way out of it, had a setup last time in the Derby. I think Justify will roll here, and we'll see our next Triple Crown. Good luck. We'll see you next week.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. One more graded 1 stakes race to discuss on Saturday's Belmont Stakes undercard. It's the Manhattan. Let's take a look at this field. It is a big field again. Evenly matched horses running for $1 million, this time at 1.25 miles on the inner turf, approximate post time 5:40 Eastern. For expanded stakes previews, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Matt, a couple months ago you told me that there was a lot of buzz about some wonder horse coming up from South America, and I said, how many times have I heard that? Robert Bruce might be the goods.
He looked pretty good in his North American debut in the Fort Marcy. This was his first start since October of last year. We're going to take a look at this replay right now. He's in the yellow silks in behind horses. Takes him a little while. You see Tyler Gaffalione asking him for some run. He's going to eventually split. But I think the thing that was most encouraging to me anyway is when you look and watch down the lane once he finally pulls clear, he's got his ears up. I think he's just kind of feeling good out there, just finally hitting his best stride. Also in Formulator, you can go and take a look at the incremental splits. His final 8th and his final quarter prior to that, 21.95, 10.85. A lot of that had to do with the early lack of pace in this race, but I just like what I saw there, and I kind of feel like if he could do that off of an October layoff, what's he going to do in his second start off the bench?
Mike, your top selection in this race is one of the more consistent horses in the entire division. He is a late runner that needs pace, and there is a very good chance that he's going to get a better pace scenario on Saturday than he has in his recent starts.
Yeah, I think that's the real key for Sadler's Joy. I mean, he's going to show up and he's going to put in his stretch run anyway. It doesn't matter if they go fast in front of him or not. He always closes in his races, and that was the case in the Man of War last time. We can look at the replay of this, and he's just not going to be able to get there, but here he comes on the outside. They did not go a fast pace in front of him. The horses who are on the lead right now, they're going to eventually finish 1st and 3rd. Sadler's Joy makes a big run in this race. At this point, to me anyway, it looked like he might get there. He just couldn't quite run down High Happy in this race, but High Happy had a big advantage on him. I think things will be different on Saturday. This looks like a race to me where they're going to be doing some racing in front of Sadler's Joy. If they race in front of him, he's going to come running the stretch once again. He's a very generous price on the morning line. I don't know if I'm getting the 8. If he's 8-1, he's value in this race.
One of the hard-hitting horses in this race that might be racing early and could set things up for a horse like Sadler's Joy is the very courageous Beach Patrol, who's one of my favorites. And Beach Patrol ran last time out at Churchill Downs, and it was his first start since the Breeders' Cup, a race we're going to see right now, a race in which he fought hard and finished 2nd behind the Good Trip winner Talismanic. At Churchill Downs, he fought hard and finished 2nd behind a sharp horse off the layoff named Yoshida, and that's what Beach Patrol does. I think 1 1/8, the race at Churchill Downs, a little bit short at this point of Beach Patrol's career. He's going to stretch out to 1.25 miles, and he's fairly versatile for Chad. He can go to the lead. I don't think that scenario is going to happen. I think he is going to be sitting in a stalking position, try to get the jump on horses like Sadler's Joy and Robert Bruce turning into the lane, and we'll see if he can fend them off in the lane. lane. Like Mind Your Biscuits, he's just a consistent horse that seems to try every time and is usually right there, and he'll be my top selection. One of my favorites in training, that's Beach Patrol. You're going to want to follow DRF TV all weekend long. We'll be live at Belmont Park on Friday and Saturday for some race recaps, race previews, pick 4 plays, interviews, etc. And you can catch all of that action at video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate, and best of luck to Justify when he breaks out of the gate, looking for that Triple Crown.